The story was that Dan Gallery, who was a skipper of the carrier, on his previous trip had blown a sub to the surface, depth charged it, and then sank it with gunfire. And so when he made his report back to his superiors, he told them, I think I can capture one and bring it back. So they said, well, do it. And that's what he went out to do. When we started out, we had no idea that that's what we were there for. We were just looking for submarines. That's all we knew. And turned out later that he was out there for the purpose of capturing a sub and bringing it back.
Picked up the contact on this submarine, U505. First thing I did, because it startled me so to have such a sudden, sharp contact on it, I thought maybe what happened was they had let one of our own ships cross the bow. But sometimes they won't tell you about it. So I jumped up and looked right quick, and when I seen nothing up there, I went back to the sonar equipment and called through the voice tube to the officer of the deck, who was up on the same deck that we were in the sound hut, and told him contact 060, either 600 yards, 800 yards, don't remember exactly. And they called general quarters immediately, and all the gunners and depth charge people manned their battle stations, and also on the hedgehogs. We made a hedgehog attack first, and it didn't hit anything, so they don't go off unless they hit something. So, and then we did the depth charge attack. All this happened in just a very few minutes, and it crippled it somehow, knocked the lights out inside and broke a bunch of their test tubes, and water was coming in. So they decided immediately that they must surface.
We had the U505 under surveillance for probably weeks before they finally surfaced. They would make a contact, go what we thought was a contact, and go in and be nothing there, and the next night you'd go back about the same area and get that contact in about the same area, and this just went on day after day after day, and just was kind of playing cat and mouse with it until finally it surfaced. Or was forced to surface, apparently.
Captain Gallery says, cease firing. And that was, we wanted to get rid of that sub, but he had in mind to capture it. So everybody stopped firing, and we didn't know at the time, but found out later that its rudder was stuck. It could not maneuver except in a circle. And it was coming toward us. It looked like, and we were sitting dead in the water at that time. It looked like it was going to ram us. But the captain started the engines up and moved away. And then the boarding parties then were started.
This was a Sunday morning off the coast of Africa. I had just attended church services down on the hangar deck, and the general quarters were sounded, and we were all at our battle stations. And I was down in the bow of the ship. My station was damage control officer at that time. The short time after that, the away boarding parties was sounded. And I couldn't believe my ears, that boarding parties. You know, we'd been training since we'd left Norfolk, but never in our lives did we really think that it would come about.
And we almost captured the 515. This is where this all started. And I guess when we went back to port, they got together and said, wouldn't it be great if we could capture a German submarine, you know? Yeah, well, we never thought this would actually happen, you know? So they asked for volunteers, you know, for this, and they said, well, of course, all us volunteered. I volunteered for everything. Raiding parties, didn't make any difference what it was, you know. I mean, I was single, I could care less, you know.
We'd practice swinging them boat davits out, and we'd time it and see how long it took to get that boat to the rail, you know, lowering on block and tackle.
They wanted the charts, mainly, in the code books. They could care less about the rest of the stuff, you know. Between that and the Enigma, if they had the charts and the code books, that's all they wanted.
Gallery passed word, Lieutenant Hampton report to Captain Gallery on the bridge. So I wondered, what in the world now? So up I go and slowed him, and he pointed to the sub over there. You can barely see it, it's almost underwater. Says, there's your command over there, good luck. And that's it.
And as we were going towards the sub, we were passing the German sailors that were abandoning the sub. And as we were going by, they would say, save me, comrade, save me, comrade. And I remember, I said, somebody's going to pick you up. We're not going to abandon you. I said, we're going after the submarine. So, but they were begging us to save them. They were all had their life jackets on, and then that's when we went to the sub. And the thing about it is, the sub was down far enough where we could get right up alongside, and we jumped from our boat right up to the top of the
rail there.
up to the rail, and because that's how far it was down in the water. So we just jumped right across and went down. And out there, it was surprised that the lights were still on and it was still running. And as I come down the ladder and I was going toward the engine room, to my left, I could see water coming in. And lucky for us, see, this was a sea strainer, but the cover was off and the water was coming in. And see, that's how they were going to scuttle that submarine, because so much water, and it was going to tilt it enough where it was going to slide down.
It was sinking. It was down. You know, the bow was up and the stern was down, and they're down there looking for the plate. And he happened to, be fiddling around with his hands, and he found the plate, and he closed the cover, and that was it. Of course, the U-boat is circling, at about 6-7 knots continuously because the rudders were jammed.
We were told about booby traps, and I remember telling Wayne, I run my hand around this cover, because, well, I didn't know if there was a booby trap under this cover. So I said, Wayne, here goes nothing. So, and I picked it up, and no explosion. So I did put the cover on the sea strainer, and there was enough room between the nuts that hold it down. See, there was wing nuts. With the water coming in, I could slip them on, and water still, till I tightened all the nuts down. Now, the water was in here, but it was below decks. We were not walking in water. But if a little bit more water, it would have tilted just a little more, and then no matter, no saving it, it would have gone down.
And I watched that water and the bulkhead come up, come up, come up, and it come up about 18 inches of there, and the sub was getting like this. And it got to be to where it was practically a neutral buoyancy, see? And it leveled off and it wasn't climbing anymore. And we held on, your feet wanted to run. You wanted to get out of there because we were back aft, you know what I mean? You had to go forward to the control room to go into the conning tower to escape. And I said, I think we got it. Let's secure and get out of here. When he opened the hatch, green water came down. The whole sea come in and on top of us. He closed the hatch, come down, and we shook hands goodbye. And I said, look, the only thing is you get up there and get close. And I said, open up and I'll push you out, close it, then I'll open down below to see if I can get to the surface with another bubble there. So he got up there and I had on his butt, ready to push him out so I could grab the wheel to pull the hatch down. I said, sing out when you're ready. He said, okay, Commander. And when he did, he opened it up, and we saw sunlight. I think both of us came out of that hatch at one time, a one-man hatch. And we got up there, and there was a little step up at the conning tower bridge there. Neither one of us could talk. We opened up, and no words would come out. We just stood there and shook until we got control of ourselves. And the water, what had happened, the sub had gone down so far that her stern went down to where the water was within 1 inch of the lip of the conning tower. So we had to secure that, keep it secured. And anybody that went down below or anything like that, they waited till the wave, she was at the top of the wave, and then go down and close the conning tower hatch back of them.
It was scary when we got, not while we were doing it, it's when we got back, I said, my God, I'm lucky I'm alive,
We never thought it would happen, but it did.
Yeah.
So that's why I volunteered. I didn't want to be in the engine room. I wanted to be up there either shooting at them or catching them. Yeah. Being young, I had no brains anyhow.
But when I got back to the ship, and we're standing there, and all of a sudden I started shaking. You know, really, when you think what happened, you know, we're lucky we got out of there. And so I forget who, I don't know, it was Castleman or Commander Holly said, "Get down to the sick bay and get a couple of shots." You know, so that's the only time I had liquor aboard a ship.
I didn't know the significance of what we did until I read a story about a German U-boat skipper who mentioned how they changed their codes. And he says that we had a code book that was printed on saltwater soluble paper in case it'd go down, it would never be found. And and it says, and the Allies never knew of this new book. And they call it an address book until after the war, when they found out that the U505 had been captured. So then I felt a little better that we did something.